Hello, hello. Martin, how are you?
I'm good, Ralph. How are you doing?
Very, very good. This is the Lume Plotters.
Yes, and I hope you liked our new intro Ralph found for us. Let us know in our Instagram at Lume Plotters. Send us messages. We've had a few recent messages, so I'm glad to see that the audience is actually interacting with us because that's always fun to respond to.
Absolutely.
I personally make a point to respond to anyone who tries to reach out to us, except for the people who just want us to share our posts onto their social media platforms. But everyone else,
the spam is
spammers,
real, yeah.
it's unbelievable. In the Scottish Watches episode that Ricky posted, the same exact thing I noticed. They were like, promoted on.
Yeah. When I told him, I said like, oh no, unlike you, we said like, no, please DM us on Instagram because that's where we are, right? We're not really going into the emails.
We're not Scottish Watches, like, unfortunately.
For now. Wait until the spam hits you. It's like, okay.
But anyway, it's at the current moment, we've had a nice uptick in terms of listeners, followers, and I'm happy to see this. And once again, reach out to us, message us, comment on the posts, whatever you want. And I'm happy to interact with you.
Exactly. And also to all our new listeners, welcome.
Welcome.
It's good to have you. And I hope we continue to entertain you. Our topic today is affordable watches. So, definition first. What is an affordable watch?
So for me, I think I would categorize affordable.
Yeah.
Once again, we've talked about this in one of the previous episodes. We've been spending, as we spend time in the watch world, we spend more money as well, right? Mm-hmm. So what I say is affordable would not be the same maybe for everyone else. I'm pretty sure Bill Gates would not look at, a Richard Mille as... could look at a Richard Mille as a cheap watch. But for me, I would say under $1,000.
Okay.
Which if you rewind the clock 10, 15 years, I would say that's insane. That's an extremely expensive watch.
Absolutely agree. I remember.
Times change. Not our circumstances, just our mindset.
That's the thing. Times change, tastes change, or get refined, let's say it this way. Yeah. Our tastes get refined.
So I have to, let's break it into two categories.
Up to $1,000. And besides, just rewind a bit. So what are you wearing?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I am wearing my Rolex Explorer 1. This is the 124270, 36 millimeter, 2021, I believe they came out. So it's the current iteration. Okay. And it's 36 millimeter, not the big 40 millimeter that...
So see,
who knows?
Okay. And now that we are talking about the big 40 millimeters, I have a dear friend, right? You know him too, Hussein, who hopefully will come onto our podcast eventually, who already got his Explorer 1 40 millimeters delivered.
Really?
Yeah. And
he must have very nice connections.
I guess he has a good profile, I think. Yeah. And he bought the right watches from our distributor, so he gets also some goodies every now and then, right? Anyhow, so he sent me his caliber measurements of the 40 millimeter
So once
Explorer.
Again, so my 36 is not actually 36, it's about 35.3. Lug width 19, taper to 14, 15 at the clasp. So I've done my caliper measurements of this one as well. So it's not exactly what Rolex says. So let's see.
Not the 114270, right? This is the that you have.
Mine's
a
124270. So
yes, of course, the second. The current.
The current one, 36 mil. Before this was the 214270. Before that was the 11470.
The 214-270 was the 39.
39,
yeah, okay.
Correct.
So 114-270. So that one was...
114-270 is the 36. Old 36.
Yes, correct.
124-270 is the new 36.
Okay. Good, because that old 36 was 36.7 millimeters diameter, 11 millimeter thickness, lug to lug 44.1 millimeters, lug width was 20 millimeters, and it tapered to 15.4.
Yep.
Yeah. So now I'm comparing like to like. So we have the 40 millimeter Explorer 1 versus the 39 millimeter Explorer 1, the previous model.
So once again, a lug width was what on the old one?
The lug width
40
was 20
Sorry, lug to lug.
Okay, the lug to lug was 47.3.
On the old 36 or the 39?
39.
Okay, what was it? What you said the 36 is what you had?
I have it also for the 36, which was 44.1.
Okay, and mine is 43.
Okay.
Lug to lug.
Now, get this. I'm reading the old one first, Explorer 39 millimeters, and the new one second. So, diameter of the 39 millimeter Explorer one was 39.7. The diameter of the new Explorer 1 40 millimeters is 39.7. The exact same. It's again, Rolex playing mind games with us. Mm-hmm. But the thickness went up. Old one was 11.3 millimeters. New one is 11.8.
Okay.
Lug to lug. Old one, 47.3. New one, 46.5. Shorter. Lug width, 21. In the new one, sorry. In the old one was 20.
20.
And now coming back in the right order, it went down to 15.4 as well on the clasp.
Mm-hmm.
But the new one goes from 21 to 19. So it's a bit more substantial.
So Rolex always wants to have a 4 millimeter taper in their bracelets. 5 millimeter is what they usually shoot for. So mine goes 19 to 14. And then of course the clasp is generally 1 to 2 millimeters larger. So my sub, which is the previous one, and the current sub as well, went 5 millimeters down in taper. Mine went from 20 to 16, 4 millimeters. 19 to 15, and then 20 to 16. And this one is what? 21 to
19.
Which is 3 millimeters. This is clasp.
Yeah. 3 millimeters. No, 2.
21 to 19 is 2, but that could be the clasp, right? So the bracelet generally goes
down at the
smaller.
clasp. So I have to ask him. But yeah, it still is.
It's not much taper.
No. And I think this is what this makes this watch. Appear 40 millimeters, right? It's like they sometimes give you this because the Oyster Perpetual 41 is not 41. It's just about 40, right? So I think it's just whatever Rolex thinks that it feels like.
It could be, because the thing is, in the watch world, we say this a lot. It feels like, it's 39, but it feels like a 42.
Yeah, exactly.
When we say this about the Speedmaster, it's 42, but it feels like a 40, right?
Yeah.
So Omega is very precise. They will always list their measurements exactly what they are. Rolex is the opposite. What it should be, right?
So
this is what he measured, right? No one's wrong in this.
So again, it's nearly 12 millimeters thick, so a bit thicker. Lug to lug is shorter, 46.5. Lug width 21, we know that already, yeah. And then 39.7, the same diameter, measured from 10 to 4, right? So yeah. Anyhow, so that's
crown excluded.
That. So yeah, the lovely watch. It suits you very well.
Thank you very much.
I think the Explorer is one of these watches that I think is a perfect one watch collection, right?
It is absolutely.
You can dress it down, dress it up.
Yeah,
it's just perfect.
And it's kind of like this cult following, right? Nobody walks into the boutique and says, "Oh, give me a 36 millimeter Explorer." It's one of these watches that you have to be in the know. Most likely you're not going to see anyone wearing this watch unless they're into watches, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, if I'm wearing my Submariner and I see somebody else with a Submariner, they most of the time have no idea what it is, right? Oh, yes, I have a Rolex. I remember distinctly, I was in Fujairah at the Fairmont, and we were checking in, and the guy next to me had a sub date. And I said, "Nice Submariner." He said, "What are you talking about? It's a Rolex."
Nice Hulk. No, it's not a Hulk. It's a Rolex.
So this is exactly, I mentioned this in my, the issue with when I had the Mini Cooper, right? Every time you wave to another Mini Cooper, JCW or otherwise owner, they had no idea what it was. They just, it was most of the time like a 25-year-old girl that bought it because it was cute.
Yeah, I remember this when back in Germany when you drove around with your scooter, right, with a Vespa or something. You would greet, right? Yeah. But only Vespa. I mean, a proper motorcycle would not greet you as a scooter driver, right? No. Because you were beneath that.
But once again, it goes down to these cult followings, right? There's the guy riding the Vespa because he needs transportation, and there's the guy that has the Porsche in the garage, but he has a Vespa as well for fun.
Yeah.
And, cult following, right? Vespas are super cool. All right.
They are, and they're so much fun. Anyhow, I'm wearing today my Blancpain 50 Fathoms Bathi scarf. It's a bit of a mouthful, right? On the sailcloth strap.
The blue one,
ceramic case, the gray ceramic case.
Very nice.
I really love that watch. The blue is such a nice lacquered dial. In the sun,
ceramic bezel.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Ceramic case.
And this is one of these crowns that actually lines up. The logo is upside down for whatever reason, but it lines up straight. So that's really nice.
You mentioned this to me last time as well. Yeah. So I did some digging on this. By the way, I asked you, is the buckle ceramic?
Yeah, it is.
So most manufacturers, because ceramic is extremely brittle, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult to manufacture a ceramic buckle.
And this surface finish on it is actually really, really nice. You have polished areas. You have, of course, the engraving. You have brushed finish. And
so by the way, check out any other ceramic Omega, as well as I know Tag Heuer has some, as well as the big one, IWC, right? They're all using PVD coated. IWC doesn't care. They will give you a silver buckle on a black ceramic case.
Oh, okay.
They don't match.
All right.
The same goes with the pushers as well. They won't match. But Omega will match it. But all they're doing essentially on, like, for instance, the Dark Side of the Moon is they are PVD coating stainless steel, which kind of is cheap, right? It's a cheap shot.
You think it's cheap? Yeah, I think it's a bit of the. Yeah, I really like this buckle, and even if when you buy the NATO strap from them, which is ridiculously expensive, because all of the hardware on that strap is also ceramic.
Yeah,
on the NATO strap, right? So, but the first time I went in and said, "Hey, how much is your NATO strap?" I fainted.
How much was it?
I think it was something like 2,000 dirhams or something. So $500 or $600. And I was like, oh, it's a NATO strap.
So speaking of 2,000 dirhams, I reached out to for my JLC.
But it might be wrong. Maybe it's 1,800, but it was close to the 2,000.
Exactly. So this is 1,800 is exactly what, so I was quoted for my JLC strap. So I reached out. I want a very specific strap. And as we know, JLC has the Casafagliano straps.
Yeah.
So they're not made by Casafagliano. They were designed by them, but manufactured by JLC. Well, if you want a real Casafagliano strap, you reach out to them in Argentina, which is what I did. And they said, we can do whatever you want. Let us know. The flat price, $500 US, which is 1,800 dirhams, global shipping. So I was kind of debating, should I buy one handmade in Argentina? And I was thinking about getting a sailcloth, like a cloth strap. Specifically, the big thing is JLC always tapers to 18 millimeters. Yeah. And I told them, can you taper to 16? And they said, yes, we can. So that kind of might be the kind of push that I need to get a proper strap.
So the price that you would get there would be then including their buckle.
Correct.
Because you can't use the other buckle, right?
Excellent question. I didn't ask that. I didn't ask that. So they might just send it to me without the buckle. And then I can dig out a 16 millimeter buckle from my own collection, which I have tons. So it's not a big deal. But that's a good question if they include it. Because right now JLC is selling the fake, so to speak, JLC ones, not Casafagliano, just inspired by, for 1,100 without buckle.
Yeah.
So
see 1,100 dirhams, that's considering our budget for affordable watches, that's about $270.
Correct.
Right? Yep. Roughly. So yeah, that's already just for the strap without a buckle. So comparing this to our actual original topic,
which is cheap watches. Now we kind of I was just talking about $500 straps. Yeah. Now moving from $500 straps to $500 watches.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of a big
how things change, right? I mean,
it does.
I talked to you, I think, about that as well. When I started, and somebody said like, hey, for your birthday, do you want a nice belt or something? And I thought, oh yeah, why not? And I looked at different belts, and I have never really bought anything, high fashion or something. Belts are just very functional, right? Leather belt from somewhere, I didn't really care. And a couple of years ago, somebody asked me, hey, do I want a belt for your birthday? And I was like, what kind of present is a belt for a birthday, right? It should be something a bit nicer, right? And then I looked at the prices, and I thought, whoa, you can spend so much money on a belt.
It's ridiculous.
How on earth are people spending on an Hermes belt, for example? You spend like whatever, a couple of nearly $800 or something on a buckle, and then another $300 or $400 on the leather strap without the buckle, right? And you think, that's expensive. But then when I started with these high-end watches and the leather straps for a watch, I realized that I'm paying more for the bloody watch strap than for a belt, which is way much more material.
Exactly. And this is kind of the issue.
And usually also something that you use much longer sometimes.
So I don't have any fancy belts. My most expensive belt, I think, is probably around 200 dirhams. Actually, I had one that was 400 dirhams, and I was like, 400 dirhams for a Ralph Lauren belt. But my wife does have a Louis Vuitton belt. And purchased in Greece at the peak of the Greek financial crisis. Their exchange rates, their prices were already lower than other European countries. Yet you're still paying in euros. Yeah. But nonetheless, I think we paid about 800 dirhams for it. And at the time, I think it was 1,100 here, but now, of course, they've gone up. At the time, I was even thinking, wow, this is not bad. $200, $300 for a belt. It's roughly the same as a strap.
Compared to a watch strap, absolutely. And you think like, wow, right? I mean, I think this whole watch collecting and all of this stuff has so desensitized me to certain prices that I sometimes feel like, oh, that's not very expensive. And then you think, no, it is. It bloody is, just because your mindset is in this watch.
Correct. And
think like, whoa.
sometimes the opposite happens, where you get desensitized only to watches, but then you're still sensitized to other things. So I was, when I was buying, I bought I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, an espresso machine for the house. And this was right before COVID. So it was excellent timing on my part, because we used the crap out of it for the next 3 years. And it was, I think retail was 13,000. And I got a bargain. Wow. I paid 7,900. And I was like, oh my God, what?
So that's about $2,000, a bit more than $2,000.
Right about there. And machine. I was like, it was 6 months of research and planning and finding and, everything. This is the one. On the other hand, I would walk into a Tudor boutique and spend $15,000, no problem, in the bat of an eyelash buying a Black Bay.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't think twice about it. And I also wouldn't plan it out, which means there is something seriously wrong with me.
Yeah. It's the watch addiction. And so maybe we cut the corner and actually come to our topic.
Yeah. At this point, we're having a good check.
No, okay, that's fine.
$1,000, sub $1,000 watches.
You have bought a lot of them.
I have. It's a slippery slope.
There are some of them. I actually have, in the last 2 years, I would say I have bought watches under $1,000. I continue to buy them sometimes. But I am getting a bit more selective, right? I used to have these impulse purchases of these, like the Hodinkee Swatch System 51.
And this is what we need to discuss. There's multiple tiers in cheap watches. We have $1,000. I think $1,000, I would still I would have to consider. Then when you get under 500, it's much easier. Yep. Then when you get under like 200, it's just like buying chips at the shop. Right. So I'll take 3. And this is kind of the issue that it becomes, is if you add it all up.
Two moon swatches, please. Yeah.
Exactly. So you add it all up, and then you're ending up spending, 20,000 dirhams on cheap watches, because you have 50 of
absolutely. And this is what I think eventually dawns on you when you're getting into this watch collecting hobby, when you think, yeah, but why? I would never spend 20,000 on a watch. But if you consider how much you spend on all of the cheap watches, like RG Luxury famously called them shitters because they don't maintain any value. Yeah. They are usually...
You lose it. So in essence, you buy a watch for, let's say, 3,000 dirhams. You sell it for like maybe 1,000 if you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, like very, very lucky. I used to sell all of these watches on some flea markets, right? For...
nothing.
Yeah, really. Cents on the dollar. But when you consider that you spend so much on so many of these cheap watches and that money is all gone because you can't resell these watches properly, then it doesn't actually feel so bad when you buy a watch that sort of retains some value, even if it's 50%.
Yeah.
Right? You think like, okay, at least I haven't just completely wasted it for fashion watches.
So this kind of goes into two aspects. Is this thing exists in expensive watches as well? There's expensive watches that don't hold their value at all.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But 50, it's more prominent 60%. In cheap watches. But then there's some cheap watches that maintain all of their value.
Absolutely.
So it's a mixed bag. We don't want to say altogether that every cheap watch doesn't hold their value.
No. And I think up to $1,000 and sometimes also above, of
slightly
course,
above.
There's lots of micro brands that have fantastic value for money. Look at all of the Christopher Ward watches that are.
I'm not a fan.
You don't have to be a fan. Just appreciate or respect.
So let's start talking brands. Okay, so are you a fan of Christopher Ward?
Personally, they have a few, like the Bel Canto, for example, which is a bit more expensive, and the current version that they just brought out, the 12.
Yes. So
I think this is a really nice watch. Haven't seen it in person, but every Christopher Ward I have seen in person, I was very impressed about.
What were they called? They had the Trident, I believe, was their diver watch.
Can't remember which model I saw, but yes, they had a couple of these.
So I was never a fan, partially because they always put Christopher Ward on the dial.
I think was the biggest drawback, because I also never liked that logo. Now with these little dots that they put there, the new logo is so much better, and I really had my problem as well with this stuff. The thing is that this is a direct-to-consumer brand, right? And they're saying, okay, our costs of producing that watch is 1/3, right? We are calculating times 3. Mm-hmm. And they're very transparent about that. Because we don't have retail shops, we don't have distributors, that's it, right? Times 3. Which also sometimes, when you think about the price of watches, when you see, if you just think about this times 3, and you see a watch that has a very elegant sapphire crystal that is curved or specifically had to be cut or polished or whatever in a specific way, and that costs $300. That means it makes $1,000. It makes the watch $1,000 more expensive. The $300 cost of that crystal.
Correct.
If we just consider the pricing of Christopher Ward, which is direct to consumer, so meaning there's a lot that goes into the price of a watch, right? And what you can get for about $1,000 at the moment, I feel, from micro brands as well as from established brands, is amazing. There's fantastic watches.
I don't understand how it's possible.
Yeah.
So the two big ones that pop out to me, of course, if you were to tell me under $1,000, first watch in that pops into my mind is still the Hamilton Khaki Field mechanical manual wind 38 millimeter. Mm-hmm. Manual wind, Etta movement. They call it the H50.
Yep.
80 hours power reserve.
Yep.
Sapphire crystal. Mm-hmm. How? From a Swiss made as well, because that's another way that a lot of people are cutting corners, right? Is we could have a watch that's not Swiss made that would be to the same level, right? Yeah. So for instance, if you look at Baltic, right, they're saving a good amount of money not having Swiss made on the dial.
Yeah, see, that for me shows when you, which is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, when people build watches that are costing $3,000, $5,000, like Breitling with a Super Ocean, and they put in an ETA 2824. Mm-hmm. Yes, they put in a chronometer certified version of it. So the top grade, I mean, actually the chronometer grade, so which is above top grade. So you have the COSC certificate with it, but it's still 38 hours of power reserve. ETA does that for, in-house, basically for Hamilton or for Tissot.
Because they're reducing the beat count.
Yeah, and other
and other
friction and whatever reducing measurements that they took this movement that is now public domain, so everybody can actually build a movement based on this.
Sellita, for instance.
Yeah, and and Sellita has already said we are in the process of enhancing this movement and making higher power reserves and other things for customers, right? So this will happen. But my point is, every brand can do this. They can take that movement and enhance it and make it better. Like, for example, the H50 or whatever
H50,
the Powermatic 80 in Tissot and stuff.
Very similar movement. Powermatic is automatic and exactly. H50 is manual.
So you can do this. And that bugs me that other brands just don't do it and just take the one that is publicly available, because I think the Powermatic 80 or the Hamilton movements are not available outside because
they're ETA.
Enhancements are now also
so which means they're within Swatch Group.
Yeah. So I think this is extremely very good value for money. For me, I think what comes in mind directly under $1,000 is the Tissot PRX.
Which is another one that I don't understand, because let's ignore the Powermatic 80 PRX and let's just talk briefly about the quartz.
Well, that's about $300. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is integrated bracelet.
Yep.
Swiss made.
Yep.
Sapphire crystal.
Yep.
Once again, how? For $300. Like, I can't go to Switzerland and buy chocolates for $300, but they're selling watches.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that brings me back to Swatch as well.
Yeah.
Is to be able to get the Moon Swatch for that's also. I think the Moon Swatch is overpriced for what it is. Let's talk regular Swatch. 200 dirhams, $50. You're able to get a regular Swatch, Swiss made. Of course, it's plastic. Of course, it has a plastic crystal. But still, the fact is, it's Swiss made. And when I was in Switzerland, and last time, I was there, anytime I went for dinner or something, you cannot go to any meal for less than $50 or 50 Swiss francs. And they're giving you a watch for this.
I just made the mistake of going to a steakhouse in Switzerland, and I ordered a steak, and it was horribly expensive. And for whatever reason, I forgot to order anything with it. So I ordered a steak thinking like at least I get some whatever sides, potatoes, French fries or something with it. But there it came. Big, nice wooden chalkboard with my steak.
And nothing with it.
Do I get some sauce maybe? It's like, you didn't order any. It's like, okay. So I had a steak without even anything on it, like some sauce or butter or anything like that. So it's like, okay, I have to really reconsider my order process, because they didn't even talk to me and ask me like, do you really want to order this? It's just like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
If that's what you ordered, that's what you get.
So randomly, we're on tangents now. We're on tangents.
For 50 euros or for Swiss francs, you get a piece of meat.
So I have to say, for 40 Swiss francs, which I would probably rather have this over a Swatch, I can point you in Zurich to a fantastic all-you-can-eat fondue place. And it's 40 euros or 40 Swiss francs per person.
So that is cheese fondue.
It's cheese fondue as well as raclette. And you get the potatoes, the little gherkins or whatever you want to call them. And of course, tons of cheese, bread, everything. 40 Swiss francs. And but they're always super busy. So you cannot get a table without a reservation. And when I was there, middle of winter, this was for Basel World. My friend Jesus and I, we walked in and we tried to make a reservation. We said, okay, well, they said they were fully booked. We walked in. They said, well, this was, I think, around 8 p.m. They said, from 8 to 8:45, you can sit. And I said, okay, but then if I'm going to sit down for 8 to 8:45, you're only looking at me. And when I raise my hand, you're bringing me more raclette. And they brought these little, tiny plates. And I asked them, okay, what's the most number of plates anyone's ever eaten while sitting here? She said 14. I said, we have 45 minutes. We're going to top that. And Jesus, I don't even know how much he ate, but he had at least 10 within 45 minutes. I had probably 8. So, but the lady was like enjoying our company by that point because we were just going through these plates. So anyway, point of story.
if you eat so much of cheese, you have to be careful. They're saying this myth that you have to drink a lot of white wine or at least some schnapps.
Yes,
because otherwise, when it gets cold, the cheese in your stomach will become a big lump and then you will die. Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's, we took care of that. We made sure to take care of that. Don't worry. All right, back to cheap watches.
PRX,
the rest then.
The PRX. I mean, the quartz $300. The non-quartz is about, I think, $600-$700.
It's roughly double.
Yeah, it's for me as well. It's 2 sapphire crystals, front and back, right?
And then on top of that, you get the dial, which is now no longer plain, right? You actually get a textured dial, as well as the frame of the date window, which is nice. Applied.
And this is all. I mean, I have the blue version of the PRX 80. And it's a fantastic watch. I love wearing it, and it's for the price, it's just incredible. Mm-hmm. I bought it pre-owned, funny enough, so I saved about $200 because I got it from somebody else. It's a lovely watch, and then I have also bought pre-owned Tissot Gentleman with a blue dial that also has it has a nicer dial. It has nearly, I mean, wouldn't dare to say that it's not as nice as my Blancpain blue dial, but it's beautiful sunray dial.
It's not far enough off as the prices would indicate.
Exactly, and that's also not integrated bracelet, but it looks integrated. Yep. It's like Rolex integrated oyster bracelet, right? It looks very similar, more or less like a Datejust, right? Has also Powermatic 80 movement, but because it's a bit more expensive, it's about $1,000 range there, $1,000 range, around the $1,000 range, depending on offers. It has a silicium or silicon hairspring. So that's another thing. You basically have a anti-magnetic movement as well for that price, where you think, how is this again possible to have such a good looking?
And this is what it comes down to this most of the time in my mind only comes this how is this possible is only when it's Swiss made. So when I see a micro brand, and they're like, oh, we're out of France or we're out of wherever, I'm just like, all right, cool. Especially if it's China or the Far East. I could care less. Kind of is what it comes down to. When we're looking at the what was it, the Ferlin Mary?
Yes.
And I'm just like, all right, fine. You have a nice cheap watch.
See, I had a Ferlin Mary, and I liked it. It just was not. It was wearing too small for me.
For me, the issue is the movement. You can't. Don't mecha quartz. Come on, half quartz, half.
What is that? The Seiko SK68 or something. Yeah, it's mecha quartz.
But ultimately, what it comes down to is either you go full quartz, like the Moonswatch, or you go full manual or automatic. But don't do this.
See, I think they're coming up with some nice automatic or mechanical.
Well, no, now they are. Now they are. But at the beginning,
I think it was also the design. It was. If you look at this Ferlin Mary, for example, I think, first of all, it's great to have a watch coming from this region, right? So these guys are from the Gulf region, right? Who actually created this watch. So that's amazing and a successful one. And they won a GPHG award.
But not just that, it's still highly sought after and selling above retail, if we're talking about the chronograph.
Yeah, I bought this watch after I think half a year or so. I decided I'm not wearing it. I have worn it once and I thought, all right, let me sell it. And typical with these hype watches, sometimes when the hype dies down a bit, you have to be careful, right? So, because then suddenly also the desire for these watches dies down. But I was able to sell this still for more than I paid for it, which completely surprised me, right? So it shows that certain things are, because they had a limited run of this color. It's not produced anymore. Some people liked it. And then I sold it for more than I paid for. Also, a good idea of an excellent watch that has a very high respect in the watch community as well, from collectors that usually are in much higher price ranges. And they just, look at the PRX, right? The Tissot PRX.
Everyone has one.
We have people who wear otherwise Pateks and APs, and they have a PRX and use this.
This is the same thing with the Moonswatch as well.
Same, yeah.
They hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
The Hamilton Khaki, I think, is a little bit more under the radar.
Yeah.
You have to kind of be into watches to get that one. But the PRX and the Moonswatch, I think, were mainstream enough for everyone to have one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk Baltic.
Baltic, yes.
Thoughts on Baltic?
They have some really, really nice ones. I mean,
I have to say, I think all of their watches are good looking.
The is it Aqua Scarf?
There's
the 50 fathoms.
Which is it an Aquanaut? Is it a Bathyscaphe? It's an Aquascaphe.
Aquascaphe. Yes, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. So
but yeah, I like that one. I think this is a beautiful watch. Yeah. The other ones I'm not such a big fan of. But yeah.
So I love the micro rotor.
Yeah.
The MRO one. I love their sector dial.
Yeah,
I think that's super
also a nice. One, yeah.
I like the Bathyscaphe, Aquascaphe, Aquanaut with the internal bezel, which I think they call it the classic or something. I don't know. Then they have the regular Aquascaphe. Then they have the titanium Aquascaphe. Right. All of these are bangers. I like all of them.
Yeah.
Then they have the chronograph. I'm not a huge fan of. The tri-compacts, bi-compacts, whatever it is.
Yep.
But other than that, I find their GMT is nice too. I like it with the sapphire bezel.
It's not anymore in my. I can't remember how it looks like. That's okay. Don't
but anyway, point of story is they have Chinese movements in some of them. They have Swiss movements in some of them. They have Japanese movements in some of them. And that to me, the GMT specifically, it's the chronograph that has a seagull movement, I believe.
Yes.
And I'm just at that point.
This is like the other really good watch. There is the Studio Underdog.
Yeah.
The different versions. I mean,
I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah.
I don't like the look of it.
I think it's just such a wonderful designed watch. It's so unique. Yep. It has also manual wound chronograph movement from Seagull, which is
but you can
nicely
get the
decorated,
actual
but
Seagull watch
machine decorated. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. This is the watch because that's the design.
Yeah.
Right.
You're paying for the design.
Yeah. Absolutely. And of course,
with the
you have to always understand when the micro brand does things, they might sell 500 of these watches, but for the money they make with these 500 watches, they have to put money aside for warranty claims, for producing all of this stuff ahead of time. So you have to make all of this money back that you've spent for actually producing this watch ahead of time, right? So for any kind of customer service and other, there's a lot of things for your marketing and all of these things that you have to consider of how much you actually have to take aside from that. So yeah, Studio Underdog, beautiful watches, and they are such conversation starters that I think you probably get more compliments when you have a Studio Underdog watermelon on your wrist than when you wear a Rolex, because it's so unique, so different, and so happy. This is a watch that just is happy, I think. All of that is.
So if we want to talk happy watches, what about Mr. Jones?
Maybe with the exception of the Memento Mori from Mr. Jones.
Yeah,
they're remember you will die.
They have some very happy watches.
Yeah, but even that is actually meant to be happy. You should enjoy every day because you will eventually die, like everybody does.
Yeah.
And just live your life like this is your last day. So be happy, enjoy it, be positive. Anyway, right. So yeah, I like them. Oris
is
some under 1,000.
No. I think Oris, the cheapest ones here, you're pushing over 1,000, so it's not going to happen.
Okay, what about Nodus? I think they have some excellent watches as well. Monta, I don't know if you can get under $1,000.
I'm not a huge fan of Nodus. I think you can. I think off the top of my head, is it like $600, $700?
Not sure. But there's options around the 1,000-ish where you can get definitely in it. Maybe with other things. Then of course, I think the other thing under $1,000, what we haven't actually defined in the beginning is, how about pre-owned?
Okay.
If you go into pre-owned,
then there's a whole nother can of worms. But we haven't even finished with new watches. What else can you buy? Because before we go into pre-owned, we need to talk through what we would buy with our money, or what we have bought with our money. Okay. So we haven't even mentioned the Japanese yet.
G-Shock,
Casio, Orient, Casio, Seiko.
I mean the amount
ridiculous
of
how much
stuff. The Seiko 5 watches, they're all way below $1,000. Incredible amount of different designs.
The Casio, Seiko 5s, yes.
So many choices, and they are respect it.
I mean,
with watch from watch aficionados,
so nice,
lovely watches. There's so many choices, there's so many things that you can do.
So this week, my almost pulled the trigger on was the Seiko SKX 013, which is the 38 millimeter, the small sized version of the SKX. And you can get those easily for around $400 US on eBay. And there's a ton of them out there. So I think, there is some very heavy hitters. If you're lucky, you could probably get an SKX 007 or a 009 for maybe around $500 these days, which they used to be $200. So their prices are going up, of course, because they're discontinued. Also fantastic, proper tool watches, 200 meter dive watches.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, proper dive watches, 200 meters, also G-Shocks.
Yeah, totally.
So there's so many things. So for me, in my collection, I've sold, I probably have sold in the last year, maybe about 15 to 20 of these cheap, quote unquote, cheap beaters, right? A lot of them were G-Shocks.
Mm.
The one that I kept was my G-Shock GW 5000U, which is the original screw case back rubber model. And I think that's, for $300, an absolutely fantastic price.
Yeah, if it comes to G-Shocks, I have a very soft spot there, right? Especially the GMW V5000, the metal squares.
Mm-hmm.
They are just,
they're awesome.
I had too many of these.
How many do you have?
Right now?
Yeah.
Of the metal G-Shock squares, I have
Ralph has
10.
quite the collection.
I have 10.
10?
I have 2 titanium ones, the TVA and the TVB. So these special ones. I had also the normal one, the Stealthwell, the black one. The first TB1, I think it was called. Then I had the camouflage one, but I have sold these too because they're not anymore made. And I cannot have 4 titanium G-Shocks that are more than $1,000 or nearly $2,000. So I decided to get the ones that are more unique. They have this Japanese-inspired mecha, robot stuff. So the TVA and the TVB, I love these watches. I love them to bits. Then, of course, the silver, the normal steel one, black one. Then I have the aged IP. That was a very short one that looks like you have put it in the washing machine. It looks aged.
Oh, yes.
The black one. That's rare. Then I have that. Then I have the one that looks like the Tron movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's with a laser etching on it. Yeah. Then I have the golden one. Not the solid gold one, but I had the actual solid gold one on my wrist.
Yes, you told me. And there's only, I think, 13
pieces in the world.
30 or 13?
I think
30?
30?
Maybe.
13? I don't know.
It's one of the two.
It's a small number.
Yep.
And that watch in solid gold.
How much was it? Do you remember?
I think it was sold here for 90,000
dirhams, which is $25,000. So would you rather have a President Day date or a G-Shock in solid gold?
Hey, you can now get that's the retail price of a Vacheron Constantin overseas.
Yeah, or that, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, or you can be the guy who wears actually a solid chunk of gold on your arm because it's super heavy, that watch. And it really shines. I mean, that's the one thing that I wasn't prepared for, right? Because I thought, well, I have actually a golden G-Shock. It's just gold coated, PVD coated, right? The gold one and the rose gold one, the pink gold one. I have both of these and they are complete blingy watches.
Yeah.
I wear them to the pool,
cool.
but
Exactly.
It's always cool to have. And then I have the burgundy one, rather like the wine colored one. And I think that's it. And that's enough. That's my collection now.
It's a good collection.
I have a nice Pelican case where they're all in. Because a rugged case for rugged watches, right?
It's super cool. Yeah. And it's nice seeing them together.
But like this golden one, when I saw that one in real life, I couldn't believe of how much real gold actually can
went into this
shine and sparkle. Yeah, not only the weight, but it was just, the IWC Ingenieur, we saw the old one, but that was brushed. It wasn't a shiny, polished watch, right? It was lovely and heavy and good looking, but this watch was so intense. in real life, I was amazed. But anyhow,
this
is not $1,000.
No, it's not, unfortunately.
But I feel from a micro brand perspective, from a small brand perspective, there's so much going on. There's all of these.
We have the what else is there? There's the
Squala. Can you get a Squala for 1,000?
I was going to say, can you get a Doxa for under 1,000?
I think you can.
That might be pushing it, but Doxa is a fantastic historical brand as well.
And Doxa is also a brand that is super highly respected with any kind of watch collector.
They also made a solid gold watch way back when, a solid gold diver, and it sold for $70,000.
And wasn't it Doxa who actually co-developed with Rolex the automatic helium escape valve or something?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Doxa is one of these brands. Fantastic.
Yeah. So there's a number of these micro brands, major brands.
What do you think about, let's say, in the Swatch Group? Let's just go through the Swatch Group brands. For $1,000, you might be able to get a Certina. Rado will be tough.
You can. Rado, I think you could almost get a Captain Cook.
Really?
I don't know.
I'm not so sure
what they're starting at, but
Rado as this
Longines you could definitely do.
Yeah,
imagine a Longines, a heritage brand.
Yeah.
Quick story here. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but when Swatch Group was picking up both Omega and Longines, they had an internal debate about which one would become the flagship and which one would become the entry level. And at the time, both were basically out of business. They were barely making anything. And they chose Omega to be the flagship and Longines to be the lower brand. It was a 50-50 shot either way. Wow. And the only reason they chose it was because Omega was easier to pronounce. So in an alternate dimension, Longines could be above Omega. And historically it was, right? They were both equal historically. When we look back in time.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the back catalog and the history, it's incredible. And what I like about Longines is they still offer this extract from the archive service. I think it's still free. So if you find an old Longines, you can send the details of the watch and a picture of the front and the back of the watch to Longines, and they will give it somewhere in the customer service part of the website, and they will send you an extract of where this watch was originally sold and in which configuration for free.
That's really cool.
That's really nice. So I bought one watch, a master collection in India, and I was thinking about that time, is this watch actually, how long was it in the store, right? So I asked eventually these guys of when it was delivered, because they tell you when it was delivered to the store, right? And I did this also with my Omega, my recent watch that I bought for about $1,000, a 1973 Seamaster. You know the blue dial, Lemania 1040 movement. $1,000 for that watch.
I mean, there's a whole heap of things you can buy for $1,000.
Incredible value, yeah. And this watch was, for example, delivered to Burundi in March 1973. Oh, see, you never know.
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so this other watch, the watch that I actually got from India, was just delivered 2 months before I bought it, so it was very, very fresh, right? So I know that there's, from a service perspective. Anyhow, I had to take it to service anyway because something was wrong with it. But yeah, that was also good service. I paid 1,200 dirhams for the service, for a full complete service,
which you mentioned in the last episode.
Yeah, which is 1/3 of our budget for.
Yeah, it's got once again. Let's ignore this. Let's ignore this for now. But
that's the next question. When you buy a watch for these relatively low prices, does it make sense to service them?
It depends on what the service costs are. So, for instance, if I buy a watch for $1,000 and let's say I wear it for 10 years, and then I have to pay $200 to service it, sure, why not? I mean, once again, what's the alternative?
I think it depends. For me personally, it depends. If that watch means something to you, service it.
I mean, once again, if you've kept it for 10 years, chances are you haven't sold it yet. So if you like it, you're going to keep it, right? So ultimately, would I service a Seiko 5, for instance?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. If there is a Seiko 5 that means something to you because you worn it so long and you just want to keep that watch.
Yeah, but you can keep it without it working.
Yeah, but if you want it working, right? You really
yeah, but do you really care ultimately if it comes down to it? If I had
the thing is, it might still be cheaper than buying a new one, the service, right?
It could be. It could be. You don't know.
So the point is there. Yeah, Seiko it usually is, right? So it's definitely cheaper than a new one. The question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to just buy a new Seiko 5 and just throw it away or sell it?
Yeah.
If I still get something for it. Or you say, well, but I want to have that watch. And when I service this watch, it's basically like a new one. So for a fraction of the price of a new one, which, okay, it might be 50%, 70% or something of the price of a new one, but you get actually a new watch that you can wear another 10 years. Right?
Exactly.
So might not be a bad deal. If you like it and it means something to you, then it's priceless.
So my brother has an Orient that I think is no longer working as well.
Right.
He probably paid $100 for it.
Yeah, Orient also.
And at that point, if you bought it for $100, or you're not going to get service, no one's even going to look at it.
Yeah.
For less than $100.
Yes, I think that's also something where you have to, when you go to the Orient service or or you find an independent watchmaker, you might be out of luck, depending in which country you are looking for that.
Yeah.
Because the labor cost is too high for any kind of service for $100. Right?
Exactly.
But if you send it to the manufacturer, you might get a service price for that.
Who knows? Yeah, exactly. You never know until
Orient,
you ask.
in any case, a funny company because it's part of the Seiko group, but not really the Seiko watch group. It's part of Seiko Epson. You know that?
Well, technically, everything but Grand Seiko is a part of Seiko Epson. I think.
No, it's a Seiko watch group that owns Grand Seiko and Seiko, and Orient is under Seiko Epson.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought everybody was under Seiko Epson.
It's highly complex.
I thought. Okay.
I recently listened to a Blog to Watch podcast, and Ariel Adams was explaining the intricacies of this.
Because I maybe at some point they branched off from Seiko Epson because I know for a fact there was a time where Seiko Watch was under Seiko Epson because I was listening to one of the Japanese, CEO or whoever of Grand Seiko talking about when they split off. He was telling us about the history of both Seiko, King Seiko, and Grand Seiko, and at the time it was Seiko Epson. So okay. I don't know if
no, I think
at
the watch
some point
got off, but Orient is still under.
Yeah, it could be.
Who knows?
So,
but yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think under $1,000 you have so many cool options and watches,
respectable options,
respectable watches. Yeah, that also don't lose necessarily. If
you were to have bought one of the original Hodinkee G-Shocks, if you were to buy one of the original Bamford G-Shocks, I think you're fairly safe on both of those.
Yes, I did. I did buy the original.
I did too. Yeah, I had all
Bamford,
three of the Hodinkee G-Shocks. I sold them, and I broke even.
Yep.
And once again, I didn't try very hard to sell them either. So,
and usually, I mean, we were talking a lot about selling watches here in this episode, right? But in general, you don't have to even think about selling watches. It's buy what you like,
buy what makes you happy.
But my point there is watches in this price range that gets you lots of respect with watch collectors that get lots of love and appreciation.
But ultimately, screw respect. Who cares about respect from watch collectors, right? Do what you want.
No, but if you have a smaller budget for watches, and that doesn't mean that you are poor. I'm just saying you have a small budget for watches and you want to be in the watch collecting world. If you come to a meetup with just your G-Shocks and your Seiko 5s or something,
you'd still be fine.
Super happy there because you will also have lots of people going and looking at your watches and being happy about them,
absolutely.
That you brought them.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of one of the things that people, we'll talk about this in a future episode, but things that I hate about the watch industry. One of them is this hoity-toity atmosphere that comes about with it because people don't realize that you can be a collector and have, cheap, quote unquote, inexpensive watches. You can have, as you said, vintage, old. You can buy right now on eBay, if you scroll in, or Chrono24, under $200, you can get a Grand Seiko. You can get for under $200 an Omega.
Vintage.
Yeah. So, I mean, imagine having 10 of those. Your entire watch collection is less than $2,000 and you have 10 crazy good watches, right? Of course.
From luxury brands.
From luxury brands. Yeah. So you have to, of course, pay to get them serviced and up and running. There most likely might not be, but still, it's very, very possible to get good stuff for not so much money.
And that can be a fantastic project as well. Buy a completely beaten up watch and restore it if you're so inclined.
If you know how to do it, yeah. And you're not going to lose much if you mess it up.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Yeah. So there are watches under $1,000 that are highly respected, super exciting. Yeah. And in any case, even if if you're buying, well, the only thing I would like to warn everybody from is buying these AliExpress drop shipping brands.
Yeah, I'm going to warn people against also fashion watches. You can spend $200, $300, $500 on a fashion watch that is an absolute piece of crap.
Okay, but
Michael Kors / Daniel Wellington /
Vincenzo
or whatever
Loretti,
it is.
Filippo Loretti and all of these guys.
These are ridiculous. If they have to say luxury at a bargain price, it's not luxury, right?
Yes.
But you don't have to have luxury. For instance, look at Seiko.
Yeah.
They're luxurious watches.
Yeah.
Tissot is luxurious watches.
I think when it comes to fashion brands, it's also some other things where what we considered a fashion watch back then might not anymore be a fashion brand. Chanel is not a fashion brand anymore.
Chanel, Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton is not a fashion brand anymore.
Cartier.
Gucci is still a bit like that, but they're also working on haute horlogerie and their own movements.
So
they have
Gucci,
their own 25H movement.
So this is one of the issues. Is I'm a huge fan of Gucci, but at the same time, I don't like their watches. But they have that one. They have that one with the that looks like the Cartier. What is it called? The tank with the closed dial with just the digital readout. With the rotating disc for the numbers. Right. So they have a Gucci that looks like that, which I think looks pretty cool.
Also, I think they have understood that they are considered to be, in their watch making, they are way behind the other big brands.
But they should be above where they are.
Yeah, and I think they're going there. I've seen this now in watch magazines where they advertised and said like haute horlogerie watchmaking from Gucci, and they made double spread advertisements for that. And this is B2B magazines, so they are basically
trying to sell themselves.
To really saying like, okay, we are going there, going there. But anyhow, these watches can be not so advisable.
Exactly.
Rather go for watches from watch brands.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think you can't go wrong with that. Watch brands have been making watches for quite some time. Another brand that we often forget about is Movado.
Yep.
The museum watch and things like this, design-wise. Okay, the technical perspective, they're just cheap quartz watches. But
why we're talking about Swiss watches, the Swiss train station watch.
The Mondaine.
Mondaine, yeah. Also lovely brand.
That's also a fantastic, good-looking watch. There's 1,000. We cannot possibly begin to sum them all up in one episode, but they exist. So we want everyone to know that watches are for everyone. It is people's hobby.
Exactly.
So
enjoy it.
And if anyone comes up to me and says, I'm priced out of the watch industry, I will happily show you a watch that you're not priced out of, and it'll be a cool one.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
Challenge me on that.
There's watches for any budget and excellent ones. All right.
Yeah. All right. Good chatting. We will see you guys in our next episode. Once again, follow us on Lume Plotters at Lume Plotters on Instagram. Exactly. Message us, DM us, etc.
All right.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.